Welcome back, everybody, to Ask the Stripper. I'm not the stripper. Where's the stripper? There's the stripper. Hi, Molly. How are you?
I'm good. I was just telling you, I'm feeling a little low vibe today or something. Maybe. Oh, I had bad dreams. That's why. We talked about dreams before. I had bad dreams last night. I've got a vibe because of it. So I apologize.
No. I didn't sleep well. I woke up a few times, and my wife's trying to get dinner tickets for Disney World, and she has to get up in the middle of the night to do that. So we woke up about the same time, and I had trouble getting back to sleep. So I actually slept in this morning. I'm rarely in bed beyond 8.
Yeah, but what a good reason to be up.
Yeah.
You sound like you guys have a very fun life. I envy it.
We try. Speaking of, should I give an Albuquerque update since we mentioned that at the end of last time?
Yeah.
Albuquerque is awesome. It's a 10-hour drive from here, so that part's not so awesome. But we went to a concert down there, Jewel Train and Blues Traveler. That was great. And what was great about the stage there is it faces east, so you don't have the sun bearing down on you like half the show. So that was great, and the bands were awesome. There was even this opener, Thunderstorm Artist, and he's kind of like a John Legend, but a little more rock and roll. And he did some great stuff.
That's amazing.
And then the next day, me and my son did the Breaking Bad tour. I got this t-shirt in honor of that. Los Pollos Hermanos. And and then we checked out local shops and ate at some good places and then drove back.
Yeah, I want to go to there. That sounds awesome.
It's lots of fun. The people are extremely nice everywhere we went. You know, people say that about Utah, but I'm saying that about New Mexico now.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard people say that people in Utah are really nice. And I have noticed visiting big cities that people seemed not as nice. I think they're probably just as nice, but they're just more reserved with who they share that niceness with.
Well, Miami's on my shit list unless they redeem themselves.
What did Miami do to you?
Well, we were driving. It was our last Florida trip, and we were driving back to Orlando to get ready to fly home, but we stopped in Miami to eat dinner at Bubba Gump's, which we do when there's one around. And we didn't in Vegas because I made a joke that it's too far inland to be a good Bubba Gump's. But the restaurant we went to ended up being bad. So we're like, well, we should have went to Bubba Gump's. But we went and ate at Bubba Gump's, and the waiter was just awful. The city was crowded. There's some type of festival going on, so just the traffic was terrible. But luckily, we got enough back in type of a refund or something because they were so shitty that it paid for our $25 parking. So, almost broke even, I guess. But yeah, I'm not very fond of Miami.
I love Miami. I had such an amazing time there. I went with a group, and I think we went during a time that it's not very busy, and I just had the most fantastic time. But New York is on my shit list. I really want to give New York another try because I was sad because my daughter was supposed to be on that trip with me, and the day I was flying out, her dad was like, I don't want her to go, because this was years ago. She was little, like 5, and like those, I don't remember exactly what happened. I've kind of forgotten it now, but there was like some kind of terrorist attack that had to do with the airlines at that time, French something. Anyways, our plan was to go to New York and then Germany. And I had planned this big trip for us. And because that had happened, like the day we're supposed to fly out, her dad was like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this and I don't want her to go. And so I called and I couldn't get a refund on my tickets. And so I went anyways. So I'm sure my attitude was just terrible. And then at one point, I had several things happen on my trip, but at one point I fell asleep on the subway and went too far. And I had to ask someone like information and for help. And they were so angry and rude to me about it. and very like, why, and it's funny because it can kind of tie into what we're going to talk about today, which is, well, one of the questions that came up. Because it's not, I think that woman who I was talking to was rude. I think it was that things become, when you get the same questions over and over and over again, which is, I'm sure, how New York feels about all tourists, is like,
Yeah.
It's just the same thing over and over and over. And you're like, dear God, I will, like, violence. I will inflict violence on the next person. And it doesn't even have anything to do with what they're saying or doing necessarily. It's just that it's really, you just hear it all the time. But yeah, there was some question in there today. So let's get into those. Maybe when it comes up, I'll know which one it was, but it made me think of that it wasn't an offensive question. It was just a question that's so happening all the time. But yeah, so, okay. So I asked for some questions, reached out to my followers. Thank you guys for, helping us out with some questions. So let's see. The first one is, how often do you get bored at work? Is there something you do regularly to combat boredom? I do get really bored at work. And 2 days ago, I was on stage and it was pretty boring. It was a day shift. There was like 2 people there, and I was doing, they had put some big bills on the stage, and so I was like, it was hot, and I was like, oh, now I have to dance, because like I'll just kind of roll around and chat with you if there's not like a significant amount of money on the stage. But since they both were like tipping me in big bills, I was like, all right, I gotta go climb up this pole and do something that seems impressive. And I caught myself midway in a trick, and I yawned. And it wasn't like an I'm tired yawn. It was a I'm bored yawn.
Oh boy.
And I like caught myself, and I was like, this is so awkward. Because that's one of the things as a performer, you have to like control your face. Like your face could be doing things that is like affecting your money. And I have a lot of struggles controlling my face.
And that sounds so weird.
React to whatever is happening. Like it's reacting before my thoughts have even fully developed, So I thought of that, and then I thought of that when I read that question. And so yeah, everyone gets bored at work. Anything you're doing for hours and hours at a time, you're going to get bored. And how I combat boredom is I love talking to my coworkers, like the dancers. And I actually feel bad, and maybe I've said this, that like I don't really engage as much with like any of the other employees. And yeah, that's kind of, to me, just that like the access is different. Like we're in the dancer room in a quiet environment, and everywhere else, like, at the bar, the DJ, the bouncers, they're out in the club where it's like loud, and there's people around, maybe not always tons, but there's sometimes tons of people around. Whereas like the dancer room's very intimate. So I love talking, hanging out with them. Sometimes we used to play like dirty hangman, like that game where you like,
yeah,
we used to play it in church, which is funny. But we'll chat, we'll share notes about relationships or work or family or whatever. And that is one really good way I combat boredom. And of course, just sitting on my phone. Like I'll be trying to make my downtime at work productive in some way. I might be trying to create content, or, recently sifting through questions, trying to save those. And what else? Chatting with customers too. Like, of course, I feel more of an intimate connection with the women I see every day, but like a lot of the customers I have also intimate connections with. So it's fun to sit and talk with them or get to know new people. Sometimes, not as much anymore, but I would go practice my moves or practice new moves. I've been bad at that more recently. Or I'll go try and create content. Like I'll go take pictures on the backstage just stuff that I think could like be helpful for my income or my brand, air quotes. So yeah, that's my boredom speech.
What are some of the slower times where you are generally bored? So, some of the listeners can come in during those times.
Day shifts, or really any time usually before 9. I wish so much that like, and I guess it's like if too many people started doing that, then it wouldn't be this way. Like I wouldn't have the time to like get to know them better. But I wish people would like capitalize more on that, because if you're really wanting to get a more like intimate connection with a dancer, coming in earlier is like the key. And groups are super, super fun to me, but they're much harder for me to like interact with, and I think for most people interact with. But it's so fun to go to a strip club with a group. So I'm not saying don't do that, but just if you want a little more intimacy, come by yourself, because the dancers are a little more comfortable approaching people by themselves. But yeah, so daytime earlier. Almost never should you come in after 11 and expect some individual FaceTime, like
Yeah.
unless you've, got a lot of money.
And you can buy that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you're buying that time technically, but
yeah, I mean, it's so, and I'm sure we've discussed this at length, but it's just always worth talking about more and more to me, is that like sometimes people will have an attitude about me asking for money or asking to tip or whatever. And yeah, we've just gone on and on about this, that I'm like, dude, this is my job. Like, it's my job. This isn't like, this is my job. This is where I come to make money. And some people get it, and some people are like very offended by that. But like, if you've paid a door fee and you're also like buying drinks, you're supporting the club, and that's great, good for you. But I don't benefit from that. Like, I'm paying the bar to work there. So like, yeah, there's just been a lot of, and it's pervasive in the industry. And I wish there was just like a really nice way to like handle it. There's still a lot of people coming in who will just watch and not tip anything. And it's like so rude. It's incredibly rude to do that.
I just had a thought. One way to think about it is it's similar to a model of a hairdresser at a salon.
Mm-hmm.
They rent those slots, those booths monthly,
Uh-huh.
and above the price of whatever they figure with the store is what they make too. They might have a wage too, but yeah, that's probably the closest like comparison to help people understand it. Is you're basically paying to work there.
Yeah, it is similar, and that is something that it's been compared to, and there's definitely similarities. But it's different in that like it's so much clearer in that industry of like, I'm exchanging this for this. And in the strip club industry, it's so difficult for people to like wrap their brain around that the service I'm giving them is entertainment and companionship and attention, and that costs money. Like and it's so weird because we've talked about this. There's so many other industries that are doing the same types of things. Like, you pay to go see a movie, you pay to go see a concert, like, and it's very clear, like, I'm paying this for this service, but yeah, I think because of like the cover and whatever, that like people think, oh, well, I paid an entrance fee, so like I'm covered. But yeah, I think there's ways to brainstorm more like concise ways of like doing that, so that people understood, it was communicated somehow. Like, you can't just watch, you can't just this guy came in the other day he got a little drunk, and he's kind of someone who like rambles a lot, and I'm not really sure what that's about. I haven't asked, but he will laugh a lot when he gets really drunk, like very loudly and continuously. And he doesn't always tip. And I'm like, why? why is this person here? He's not tipping. He's just looking at me with my clothes off, laughing. And I, was just on stage because in case somebody came in, they want somebody on stage, and he was there and he was laughing. And I just was stretching because I'm like, I'm not doing anything for this man. But the fact of the matter is I already did something for this man. I put on makeup and I walked out in lingerie and 8-inch heels, and I took my robe off and I'm not wearing anything, and he's looking at me. You know what I mean? Like, so it just feels it's a really difficult feeling. And it's something like, especially like when I work like an earlier shift and then a later shift, to have to kind of deal with that for hours and hours, things like that are just a lot. And then to have to know that like really most of my money is going to come around like between the hours of 11 and 1 in the morning, and having to have already been so drained and spent, it's a lot. And I just remember like it was grating, like listening to him and him to not be tipping me. And it just was like, oh my gosh. And there's so many times like that. Like, you make great money as a dancer, but there's so many times where there's no one there, or there's plenty of people there and they're not tipping. And I'm just like, dude, if you guys all gave me $1, I'd be banking right now. Like, but anyways, so, okay. Yeah. It's a lot. Should we go to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. This was from someone I really love. Is it cool when the homies come support at the club, male and female friends? And me and you have talked about this.
Yeah.
And there's a later question I even think that talks about that sometimes they feel uncomfortable going to the club because they're concerned that the dancers are uncomfortable, something like that. And like I said, especially if you've been doing this like more than a year, it's really unlikely that they're uncomfortable. They do this all the time. Like, you might come to the strip club every so often, but they're there like all the time, talking to people with their clothes off and with other women with their clothes off. Like, they're not uncomfortable. They've been desensitized long ago and have had, like, we're not uncomfortable. And specifically with the person that asked, I was like, I would not at all be uncomfortable with you. Like, I adore you. And so, male and female friends, all welcome to come. I like them to know that they should try to tip everyone. And that I think the etiquette is and should be like, if you're not going to tip, you should probably sit at the bar with your back to the stage and just drink your beer. But even then, that can become bothersome to me because there's mirrors behind the bar. And so I feel and know, I'm aware that they could be sitting drinking a beer and really they're just watching me in the mirror. But at least it feels a little more to me like you're not just staring at me and not tipping anything. At least you're like pretending like you're not looking at me, even though we both know you are. But just and having said that, what that kind of means is like, your budget and what you're comfortable spending for entertainment. You're an adult. So knowing that, know kind of the amount of time you want to stay, the amount of time that you can stay. Don't like come in and like blow all your money and then hang out for several hours after. Like, it's kind of like, that becomes awkward for me. Like, I'm like, oh, well, I can't really talk to you anymore because I'm here to make money. And if I'm not making money, like, anyways, it's kind of, so I guess like it can be awkward. And I guess sometimes I'm worried too that they're uncomfortable that I'm not spending enough time with them or I'm not spending enough attention with them. And so I guess I would just say, like, you'll definitely get some of my attention as a friend that comes in, but that I might also be distracted with many different things going on. I had someone come in yesterday and hang out with me, and I was very distracted. I was like, I have, attention deficit disorder. So anyways, so yes, friends are welcome. Oh, this one was interesting. Do strippers ever want to have families or kids? The first thing that just came to my mind was that they do usually have families. And that could just be the family of origin, but also some of them have kids and some of them have husbands, I would say
they're
it's
people,
hard.
they're humans.
Yeah, they're people with lives, but it can be difficult to have those things and be a dancer. And that they ask, do they ever want that? Women nowadays, I don't think feel as much pressure for those things. Like they may not want those things. A lot of the women I know, like there's a significant amount of them that are like not really interested in that, and so I don't know. I would say it's probably just like any other industry that some women do want that, some don't. But I know women I know a woman who had just, had her second child and then came back to work 3 weeks after she gave birth.
Oh boy.
And she's just
Wow.
feeling it. Like, I could not have done that. But like some women are able to have a very steady, good career and have a family life. I think just like anyone, that's a hard balance to balance career and family. But some of them want that and some of them don't. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a stripper thing to want or not want, that for yourself. But yeah. All right, should I continue?
Yep.
Okay. What's the minimum acceptable tip per dance?
$200.
What'd you say?
$200.
I know it's not a question you want to answer because it's like,
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure if they meant per dance, like for a private dance or for a lap dance, or if they meant per set on like the main stage. But like I said a minute ago, like if there's a large crowd of people and they all like it's a busy night, if they all came up and gave like $1 or $2, like I'd probably be chill. But usually it's not like that. Usually it's 1 or 2 people that you're really making most of your money from. Maybe up to like 5 or 6 on the main stage, and then the rest are just kind of chilling. And I'm like, what is going through your head? But so I guess like I said, I'd prefer more than $1 or $2, especially if you're one of the only people in the club. If you're in when it's early or it's slow, I'd much prefer, I feel like a tip that would make me pay attention to you and give you some entertainment, like in your direction, would be when it's slow, maybe like $5. That would probably get 20 seconds of my attention. Wow, I'm surprised I was able to be so specific there. But I think I have to be, because like I was thinking this last night that like I have 6 minutes on a stage. I have 2 songs. And so there's a calculation going on internally for me that has to go, okay, this stage is this big. There's somebody over here, there's somebody over here, there's somebody over here. How much time can I spend and entertain all of them and find a graceful way to make my way around to entertaining each of these people? And if it's $5, I'm going to be like, all right, there's some attention I'm giving here, and then I'm going to go to someone else. And if they're tipping more, I'm probably going to spend a larger portion of time entertaining them over there, milking it, if you would. And then, might come back if I have time to the $5 and be like, oh, would you like more engagement from me? Because I'm here for more engagement if you're here to pay me for more engagement. So yeah, I think it's hard to put a specific number on that, but I could say like $5 will get me to look at you and engage briefly. Yep.
I owe you a bunch for these podcasts then.
Do I entertain you?
Yes.
And engage you? Yeah, we're different though. You're special.
Yeah.
uh,
And we also learned that not to put up coins on the stage. We learned that from me.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
We
In my
don't.
defense, we were just goofing off, but yeah.
People are often goofing off when they do something like that. They're just not aware that like there's like a guttural reaction coming their way.
Oh yeah.
Because we've been conditioned to go, I've been insulted. Okay, the next question. Would you be open to teaching small group exotic floor work lessons? So I did that and I really, really enjoyed it. It doesn't make me a lot of money, but I'm still actually thinking of doing it again because I really enjoyed it. I think I would do something maybe like once a month, and maybe I'll start to talk about doing that again. But I don't have enough to teach about, like, what would she say, exotic floor work or like pole even. I don't have enough to teach every week or multiple times a week. I have enough to teach like once a month maybe. and then you could get a few of those, and then I'd probably max out on what I could teach you, but I could teach you a lot more about how to make money in the industry. I know more about that, or I know more about maintaining mental health, which actually someone asked me about. I know more about surviving the club. I have teaching to do in that way, and less so to do with like skill or technique on the in the dancing side. Okay, this is the next question. I bet you can read people well. Is there one thing you look for immediately to read a person? I love that question. And I do think dancers are really good at reading people, and you really have to be. But it's so random because you can get really good at it and learn a lot about doing that and still get it wrong. So I would say that my best skill for reading people is going with my gut and kind of intuition and kind of reading their energy, which includes everything about them. The way that they're walking, the way that they're groomed, the expression on their face, what their eyes are doing, the way they're dressed, etc. Like I take it all in, and I think my first question is not always, and I would say this is super true of me. My first question isn't always, can I make money from this person? I think my first question is assessment of, is this a safe person for me to interact with? Is this someone I vibe with? Is this someone who's going to be dangerous for me? That's, I think, is a really important skill to have in the club. So that's probably that's the first thing I'm assessing. And then the second thing is, how can I make money from this person? Because I'm at work. But also I've tried to factor in less of a hustler spirit and more of like the things I've learned about a good customer service or good sales techniques, which are, what do they need from me? Because sometimes I go to entertain them, or I go to seduce even, because I'm not sure what exactly they're looking for. And so then I've been trying more, and I think I've kind of always done this, but I've tried more intentionally to find out what it is they need from me, because sometimes they just want to talk, and I need to be able to evaluate, like, do you want to watch me on stage dance and you tip me, or do you want me to talk to you and then you'll tip me but you won't really watch? Because a lot of people really just want to be near the energy of entertainment, like the presence of like a woman nude on stage, and like I said, those peripherals, like they're taking it in, just not the way that's so direct. But yeah, like I have to assess all of these things. But I had a funny interaction yesterday where there was a guy sitting at my stage tipping okay, and a guy who walked in, and the guy sitting at the stage was able to observe me take in the other person. Like he watched me do it. He watched me like assess him. And which was interesting that I could perceive that he was perceiving. Like it was like, but he, I think I like made a face. Like I said, I have a hard time controlling my face. But the guy that had walked in, my assessment had been, you don't seem like someone I'd make money from, and you don't really seem like someone I would necessarily vibe with, but I have to keep an open mind because people surprise me sometimes. That was the vibe I was catching from him. And then he asked me, this man who just walked in, he said, "Hey, how are you doing? What's up?" And I was like, "Not much, just here at work trying to make money." Like just was very direct because I just wanted to get straight to the clarity. And he was like, "Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay." And he put a 50 down. And I was like, I did not expect that at all. Like my assessment of him was not, this man's going to put down a $50 bill. Did not see that coming, did not read that off of him. And so I think it's really good to trust your instincts and go with your gut, but also like you need to keep a very open mind about things because everyone's conditioned to look at people a certain way or to like judge people a certain way. And people can and will like surprise you like often. So yeah, we got all that from, about trying to, if we're good at reading people. Would you say that sounds like strippers are pretty good at reading people? Because I feel like they
what I've noticed from going out of the game, but what I remember from back then.
I think that's like, and that's a skill that like if you ever, as an employer, if any employers happen to be listening, like you couldn't do better than hiring someone who had any amount of experience in a strip club, because that is like a skill you can take to the bank in any industry, like to be able to read people and to, have that skill. Anywho, do you know what time we started? I just want to know.
I think it was close to 3:30, closer to 3:30. So I think we've been going half an hour at this point.
All right. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. This was the one that I kind of mentioned. It says, "How have you stayed so level for so long and not let the lifestyle spiral you?" And that was so interesting. And I've gotten that question more than once because it is such an easy industry to like bottom out in, like mentally and psychologically, and physically even. And sorry, I'm hesitating so much because I have so much to say about this that I don't even know how to like make this a concise answer. But I do know that part of it was just that I got into it later. Like I didn't get into it when I was, I was very naive when I started, but I had maturity from years, So I do think that was at least a portion of why I've been able to like at least maintain the appearance of someone who's got it together. But I think I would want to share some honesty that like I ran into a dancer I hadn't seen for a long time recently, and I asked how she was doing, and she said, "Oh, well, actually I had a mental breakdown." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've had a bunch of those." And I don't think people know or realize that like, and I don't think it's really abnormal to have mental breakdowns. Like when you're using your brain or you're really stressed out or you're under a lot of pressure, you'll have a mental breakdown. I have them all the time. And maybe that's like makes me sound way sketch, but like I may not show that because I think I handle them very well. And I don't even think most people would have any idea that I'm going through that. Like even people close to me may not be able to observe that I'm having a mental breakdown, but I do. I have them frequently. But I've also acquired a ton of skills to try to prevent and deal and cope through a mental breakdown. And I would say most of that, not most, a good portion of that comes from I am like a self-help like junkie. And it feels like embarrassing for me to say that a little bit, but like it's true. I find a lot of helpful strategies, tools from books. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, that like you are, what's it called? You are the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You're like the average of them or something like that. And sometimes I and others, I think, don't have access to healthy people all the time. And so the only way I know how to surround myself with people who will elevate me is to surround myself with people that are through a book, through avenues I may not have access to that person and their wisdom and the knowledge and the, the things that they've attained. I can experience that through reading their books or listening to their podcast or, doing anything like that to try and like surround myself with the type of people I want to be around. What else? Like we could do a whole episode on the ways I've survived in this. But I'd love to say 1 or 2 more if I can think of them, just because if it's helpful to anyone. This was really important to me, and let me know if I've said this before. I don't work a ton. I cannot do that. I learned that I had to accept my limits in the amount that I was able to work because it is so intense. The type of work that it is so high pressure and difficult. And I've said this in every way, that I can really only do 3 days a week. And it's not that that's always what happens. Sometimes I take, and this was probably the other important thing I wanted to say, like, I think I took off like 9 months last year and I didn't have a baby or anything. Like I took 9 months off just because I needed 9 months off. Like, and so I would say that like I've had to be very realistic with myself. And it's taken several mental breakdowns for me to be able to learn that and understand that like I can't just go and expect that from myself like I'm a robot. Like that's not realistic for me. And I think people have varying capacities. So I feel bad. Have we talked a little bit about any of this?
It does sound familiar. I think last season we covered.
Did I tell you when I like
similar.
Yelled at my own niece about her working a double? Did I tell you about
that? No.
I got issues, man. I literally like yelled at her once because she had scheduled herself for a double, and I feel so protective of her and motherly towards her. And she'd kind of been doing that a lot. And basically I had like a reaction that came across like very angry. And to be honestly, like I didn't actually yell at her, but I was very stern and very like judgmental and like shaming of like, basically I think I did like the very motherly, like, oh, what do I know? What do I know about this? Like, I'm telling you what to do. You know what I mean? Like, and what I realized later, because I felt bad, I apologized to her. I think the next day I was like, you were an adult woman. I have no idea why I thought that was okay for me to have to weigh in on that for you. Like I've already shared my opinion with you about that. You didn't ask my opinion anyways, but you had it. You didn't need for me to do that. And you'll learn on your own if that's something that's within your capacity or not. Maybe it is. You may not be who I am. actually, you're probably not who I am. You're a totally different person. So I guess it would just be to have an awareness of like, you know, what you can handle. Because I would feel, and I guess I do see a lot of women who may not have a total grasp on that. And then I see them having breakdowns or really struggling at work and not knowing why. They're like, I'm not making money, and they're so, but like if you work less, you can bring a better energy to what you're doing, and you can be excited to go to work, and you can have more to give, and you can make more money. But if you're like tapping yourself out all the time, burning yourself out all the time, it's going to affect your money because you don't have the same thing to bring to work. So those are a few of the things, but I really could go on and on about that topic because I meditate. I used to meditate a lot more, but I do meditate for like stress and things like that. But yeah, and obviously like I have a big aversion to like drugs. And so I've never gotten caught up in any of that. You know, like I'll smoke a little weed, or I won't elaborate because, you know, I don't want to talk about anything illegal. But, you know, I've dabbled and whatever, but like that's not really my thing. It just really isn't something I'm interested in. And I think that is a lot of the things that people get caught up in the bar industry in general, that, you know, ends up causing really serious issues for them. And so my strong aversion to those things has really been a blessing, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think those are some of the reasons. And then like I said before, when reading people and who to stay away from, I try to listen to myself and not push past that. Because when I do, I end up having interactions that are very toxic and very draining. And it might be financially beneficial, but it's not a good long-term strategy, because I can maintain a lot more pleasant relationships and can be consistent in my work than I can like trying to deal with a bunch of toxic people that are just taking from me in a way that's not worth what they're paying me. So I would say that's just discerning who to give my energy to has been, yeah, very helpful. That one's not a question. It says, you are so beautiful, amazing. And I'm like, thanks, but that's not a question.
But we'll take it.
This one's good. Is it creepy when couples come in?
This is from my friend Guy Seidel.
Oh, he doesn't mind us shouting him out?
Well, I assume since he wrote it, did he write it publicly in the comments?
It's not in the comments. It's in, you know, the answers that were sent to me.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't care,
he's. I think I know him well enough that it's cool.
Okay. Most people I have found don't really care, but there is a few. I met one just last night who asked me not to follow him on social media because it's a stripper page. And I said to him, because he's actually a public speaker and has done like a TED Talk and whatever, and that's all really cool. But I said, when he said that to me, I said, don't you think it might make you a little more relatable to people if you were following a stripper? Like that you are okay with people knowing that, you know? And he kind of, I don't really think he had much of a like response to that. And I said, well, maybe you don't want to seem relatable, because like the truth is a lot of people watch porn or go to strippers or go to sex workers, and like everyone wants to cover it up and act like it's not there, which will lead us into, which we probably should do next episode because we haven't even gotten there yet. But the question that I asked my followers was, do you feel guilty going to the strip club? But yeah, so sorry, I'll come back to, is it creepy when couples come in? I don't think it's creepy. It sometimes can be it can be a difficult dynamic sometimes. And I think I've said this that yes, I have. I remember that I try to direct my attention towards the female because I feel potential for her to feel uncomfortable or intimidated or like just something. And so I tend to just focus my energy on her for the most part. So if you come in as a couple, know that that's the way I and a lot of dancers will interact with you, because we want her to just have a really good experience. Because if you like coming in as a couple, we want you to keep coming in as a couple. And the best way to do that is to make sure she's comfortable and wants to be there and is enjoying herself. So no, I don't think it's creepy. I think couples can be creepy, just like any customer can be creepy. They can say or do things that make me uncomfortable. Or sometimes I get the feeling like there's some couples that like are very in tune with the scene and are comfortable with it, and like either read what it is very quickly or have experience with it enough to like understand how everything works. But sometimes I feel like a lot of couples are newbies, and I love when they just ask a lot of questions because they aren't sure. I just am like, yeah, just if there's something you're unsure about how things work, or like, you know, anything you're not clear on, like just ask and I'll tell you. But no, I actually can really enjoy couples. I know a lot of couples I really like and enjoy that have come in very regularly. I had one couple that came in for years that I just adored. Like, we never did like hang out outside of work, but I could have, and I would have. Like, I would have been like, let's all hang out. Like, I just enjoyed them so much. And so I've definitely had those. And there was another thing I wanted to add about couples. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, I think just back to the women, just that like I would keep in mind as a woman coming in a couple that these women don't want to take your dude. Like, they don't. Like the likelihood that the stripper looking at you in a couple is looking at your dude and is looking to like swoop him or ensnare him or seduce him is like really low, from all the experience that I've had and all the experience I've had with other dancers talking about things like this. Like, I've never seen it happen. I've never heard of it happening. And so I guess if that was something you felt concerned or worried about, that like it's just really unlikely that that's the intention of the dancer. I would say her intention is really just to like engage and entertain you guys in whatever ways feel the best to you. And sometimes that's, at lap dance clubs, getting a dance together with a couple, or watching your wife or girlfriend get a dance. But yeah, just don't be afraid to ask questions and be specific about your questions, and they'll usually communicate and let you know. The next question is, why are you so magical? I love these questions. They're like sweet.
I wonder this one too. I haven't been able to figure it out, and I've known you a little while.
Why am I magic?
Yeah.
Why am I magic? I guess I don't know. I don't know. I see myself as just very regular and average, and like don't necessarily see myself as magical or like whatever. So I don't know. If I'm magical, why would that be? I do have some magical things. Okay, I thought of something. I have certain capabilities that I feel like I was born with that are both a blessing and a curse. And maybe we've discussed at some point that like I love people very quickly. I can love someone that I haven't even spoken to or like just looked at, like, and I think people feel that from me. And I think that might feel like magic And I have learned that it might be kind of unusual for people, but that like for me, that's just something, and it actually kind of runs in my family. My sisters are very much this way too. Like their love for you is kind of overwhelming, and they can feel that very easily and quickly for people. But it's like definitely a double-edged sword, because like when you love and care for like no reason out of nowhere and it just kind of gushes out of you, you are very sensitive and get like hurt very easily, because you live under an assumption that other people love you the way you're feeling about them. And when you realize that like that's not how all people feel, like they don't just have this overwhelming love for like humanity, you're like, what? So I would say that maybe that could be a little bit of my magic, is if I have any, would be this inherited love I have to give or to share or to exchange, even in just like any kind of way that it might be kind of like coming off of me, even when I don't mean it to. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay. Do I sound like an asshole?
No, a
Okay.
humanitarian. You just have love for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so few, even the people that I have like beef with and feel really hurt by or struggle with my feelings towards them. Like I can't ever get over that. I'm like, but I love you so much. Like, and I see all these amazing things in you. Like you're just phenomenal. And yeah, so I see that in kind of everybody, and I can see the good. I see the good in people. Yeah, humanitarian. So I'm a magical humanitarian.
So there's your answer to a non-question.
um,
Oh, that was a question, but it felt more like a comment.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it did. But I'm glad it got me to say some words. So the next question is, do anybody in your family know what you do? And this was actually like a fortunate accident. My first year dancing, I had to stay with my parents because my floors were being done. And my mom found my sexually oriented business license. Have I told this story?
I think so.
Yeah, she found it, and because I told about how my dad and etc. This was last season. If you want to hear it, you can go back. But so I was outed unintentionally, like very early, because my mom, of course, told everyone. And I was pretty candid about it anyways. That's one of my other magic powers, air quotes, is that I have a natural candidness when people, like, if you want, I hate revealing this, but maybe you already can pick up on this. Like if you ask me something, that's how you unlock everything with me. Like you can pretty much know anything you want about me. You just have to ask. And so when people asked me what I was doing at that time, I told them. I don't remember ever like dodging it. I just was like, I'm stripping. I'm a stripper. Or I'm dancing at a club, or I feel like I tried to maybe soften it for certain people. But, as you know, a lot of my family is Mormon, and I have 3 sisters, and 2 of them are Mormon, and 2 of us are strippers, not Mormon and strippers. And we're all like super, super close. And my 2 sisters my 2 Mormon sisters will really sit and talk with me. Like I had my oldest sister over the other day, and we sat for hours, and she just let me talk about work. And she's like got 3 kids. Her husband's been a bishop, like couldn't get more Mormon. And she is really interested and cares, and says that there might have been a time that because I'm like, I don't want to discuss these things with you if it makes you uncomfortable. And she's like, it doesn't. I'm actually really intrigued by it and really enjoy hearing about it, And that's just been so nice. So it's nice to have that support. I know that some people like to pretend like I don't have a job. in like my family or other circles, like they just don't want to discuss it with me. They don't want to interact about it. And I just respect that they don't, it makes them uncomfortable and I don't talk to them about it. But mostly, yeah, everyone in my life is pretty okay with it. And yeah, we told, you know, if you go back, listen last season, I tell the story of telling my daughter. So yeah, family knows, everybody knows. But I know women who have existed like 20 years in the industry and never told anyone. And that is crazy to me. And I might have said this last season then, but one of the comments I had about that was people will think like, oh, I don't know any sex workers. And I'm like, you do, you just don't know you know any, because they're not comfortable enough to tell you, because there's a lot of us. And you probably, if you don't know any sex workers, you don't know any strippers, you don't know any escorts, you don't know any prostitutes, it may be just that they're not comfortable telling you because they're out there.
Yeah, there's probably Mormon wives that have secret OnlyFans, you know, and things out there.
I had a friend, a guy I used to date, who I found out later he had married this woman. They were Mormon, and he found out she was doing sex work online, like behind his back or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting. And people who were telling me about it had all this judgment for her. And I guess I was like, so? And then, but also I was like, well, maybe she should have been more open with him about it, you know, because you need to discuss what level of monogamy you're in. You know what I mean? People have different understandings of that. But I didn't have like, people were like villainizing her in this way, like telling me about this. And I was like, no, I don't think it's like that, but whatever. But yeah, that was a scandal. Should I go to the next?
Scandalous. Yeah.
All right. When we're approaching an hour, will you let me know?
I think we're within like 10 minutes.
Okay, that's probably like a one more maybe. No, maybe a couple. Let's see. Where would you recommend taking a pole class in Salt Lake? So I taught at La Bombe, so I love La Bombe. It's a smaller studio. And I'd recommend
I drive past that often.
Yeah, it's good. It's cool. I really like the owner. She's a wonderful woman. And then also my friend Shay owns Kairos. So if you're up north, like more like Ogden, I think Kaysville, hers is fantastic. I would recommend those studios. Those are where I'd recommend. I couldn't really tell you which classes to take. I would say like the person mentioned earlier, if you're looking into stripping, maybe take floor work classes called like low flow, or yeah, things like that. Exotic or erotic, things with those in the title. But you know, other classes, if they're more fitness geared or athletic, can also be really helpful to your conditioning for the industry. So they're all probably going to be really helpful to you. The next question is, do you see yourself moving on to bigger stages in Vegas or LA? And I don't really. I think about travel dancing and I've had opportunities for that. My problem is that when I travel dance, I don't tend to make more than I do here, because I think when you kind of like build more of a clientele, like you can do very well that way. Whereas when you're travel dancing, it's kind of harder to do that because you're not there very long. I'm sure you could find a way to develop that over time, and you know, let those regulars know when you're in which place and if you've return to that place often. So when I do travel dance, it's usually just for like the experience. It's just to be like, I want to go somewhere and experience dancing there and check out the scene, because I find it difficult to make money other places as much as I do here. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. I have other goals that are outside of dancing. So I think if I was like looking into more long-term dancing, I would probably be doing more of like, oh, I want to hit all these cities to travel and dance to. But because I have um, different things that I want and have interests in, that I'm not very interested in that. Oh my gosh, can this be the last one?
Oh boy.
I can't even. Like when I read this one, it's not bad. It just was like weird. It said, "Would you have something serious with a Mexican?" And I was like, it just was so funny to me because one, my boyfriend's name is Fernando. So if that doesn't answer your question, but in fact, like I have like a very specific love for them. Like on top of my generalized love for everybody else, like I have even more of a special love because I have been with someone who's first generation Mexican. That like when I see anyone now of that, culture, I'm like, oh, I love them even more, because I've had, experience with someone like that. But yeah, let's leave it on that one because I was like, what? Why did you even ask that? I mean, I get why, but it also was like kind of caught me off guard when I read it.
And should we put a disclaimer out there for future questions? This is not a dating app for you to date her.
My Instagram is not a dating app. The club is not a dating, what would you call that? Speed dating
venue.
A dating venue. It's not a singles bar. Like if you go to a singles bar, people are looking to hook up, right? That's not what it is. And we've talked about this. I feel very frustrated when people think that's what it is, because it's not. We don't want to take your man. We don't want to date you. We just want to engage and entertain and have fun and have a good time and try to fulfill whatever part of this fantasy you enjoy, like stop asking out strippers, please. If she's interested in that with you, she will let you know. She'll let you know. She's not letting you get away if she's got those intentions with you. She's not. That's my opinion. You don't need to pursue her or ask whatever. I had this question again this week. Someone just kept saying, how much? How much? How much? And do you remember the thing I said on my Instagram about that's like asking a bar for homemade root beer? And it's like, homemade root beer is fantastic and awesome, but I don't make homemade root beer. Stop asking me how much to date you or to sleep with you or to go out with you, because I just dance. I just dance at a club. And there are women, and that's what makes it so difficult, because they're so intersecting. And there are women, even at my club, that do, different, aspects of the business. And so I get why they're asking, but for me, I'm just like, it's back to that. It's not even the question. It's just that it's all the time, and it's making it feel torturous because I'm just getting it all the time. And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't make homemade root beer. It's delicious. It's wonderful. Prostitution is necessary. It is why we're not in perpetual world war. Like, it's so good. And I have good things to say about prostitution. I just don't participate in it. Like, I mean, metaphorically, I'm sure I do, and everyone does, to some level, but like, I'm not a working gal in that sense. So yeah, that's what's up.
So those questions won't be acknowledged if we see any more of them.
Should we just, yeah, I'll just swipe and be like, no, we're good. Nope. Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Well, I There was a couple of good ones on the NGL. I just want to take a quick look.
Yeah.
Hi, Indy.
And you had to remind me, so I'll remind people, that's the anonymous, people could submit questions anonymously.
Yeah. And we usually on recording day, we put up, oh, how tall are you? That's a quick one.
Huh, I'm 5'6".
And with the heels?
6'2".
Do you use pronouns? That's a quick one.
I know I'm aware of this, but I also feel elderly speaking on it. So yes, I believe I do, and it's she, her, right? That made me feel so old. But yeah, but I think I have some attraction to potentially what they call like neutral stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you know much about this?
Not really, but I should, because it confuses me, but at the same time, I kind of get it. I'm not offended by it in any way.
And I think it feels important to me to interact with people however makes them feel the most comfortable. So I feel on that point, if someone has said to me, expressed, what they would like me to call them, I try really hard to do that. But yeah. So I guess it's not something I really think about much, but yeah, I guess I do use she, her.
Another one. Hi. Anonymous hi.
Hi. Hello back to you.
Are you a backseat driver?
Am I a backseat driver? Is this like a innuendo? Euphemism?
I don't know.
Hear those words correctly?
I was just curious about it because when me and my wife are together, she drives. I rarely get to drive, so
I'm you. I don't want to drive. I prefer not to drive, but I don't tend to say much about someone else's driving. I might react though. Not might. I can and will. I'm easily startled. And if I perceive a danger, like someone's coming in our lane or something like that, I might shriek. And not might, I do. And so in that way, what would you call that? Not like a backseat driver, a backseat screamer? Shrieker?
Now those sound like innuendos.
I know they do. But I know that's really bothered people that I'm driving with, because there's nothing worse than like someone's coming in your lane and then someone's screaming next to you. But I tell you, I'm so easily startled, and kind of like the face thing, there's not time for me in my brain processing to stop that from happening. It's happening before I have any control over it. Like I am easily startled and I will react. But yeah, basically the person driving is usually like, that's going to get us in an accident. And I'm like, I know, if I could stop. And maybe I've said this, people love watching scary movies with me. I don't watch them often because I'm so easily startled, but like there's nothing like going to a theater next to someone like me and watching a scary movie. You will feel my fear. You will like marinate in it with me. And that will be the scariest fucking movie and the tensest 2 hours you've ever had. But it's a good time, people have told me.
What was the last horror movie you saw in the theaters?
What's the last movie I saw in the theaters?
The last horror movie.
Horror movie. So I can't remember, but I can remember that I watched a preview. I can't even remember what the preview was for, because I don't go to scary movies because I'm sensitive. But I remember that there was a preview for a scary movie, and I screamed in the preview that wasn't even the movie. It was a preview for a movie, and I screamed, and it's so embarrassing. Everybody looks at you and like, and I'll just be mortified. I'm like, I can't control it. But I can't remember. You know what? I can remember. No. I don't go to see them in the theater because it's really too intense for me. I've done it, and I would do it if someone asked me to, so they could enjoy that experience, because they would. It's very thrilling. Oh, I do remember. I remembered, and it's embarrassing. I took my nieces and nephews, and they couldn't have been very old. They were probably between 12 and like 17. And I took all three of them to, I think it was Night of the Living Dead, the newer one. So this was like many years ago, but like not like the old school one, but like the newer one. And I feel bad now because I think they were a little young for that. It was rated R. But I'm like, I'm not a regular aunt. I'm a cool aunt. And took them to this. And it was like the most disturbing shit ever. Like that haunts me to this day. But they had a hilarious time watching it with me. Like they thought it was a gas watching me just lose my shit. But yeah, that was the last one I saw in theaters. So that was a long time ago.
I saw Doctor Sleep. I got free tickets, and me and my wife went and saw Doctor Sleep. That's the Shining sequel.
Oh, I would watch that. I actually did enjoy The Shining because I used to read Stephen King when I was younger.
It's actually really good. Stephen King didn't like the Kubrick version, and
Really?
he was involved with this, but it was kind of like a good kind of meshing where it did a lot of references to The Shining, where it still felt like it's part of that universe, but it was
That's cool.
done more close to his view of it. So yeah, I think it might be on HBO right now. It's pretty good.
That's way cool. I think I'd read a little bit about that because although I left horror read like books and stuff in my past, I still kind of like if I see like Stephen King's name come up, I'm like, oh yeah, I was like really hardcore into him for a while. So I might give that a try. I do enjoy M. Night Shyamalan as well. I've seen all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. I don't go see them in the theaters, but when they like come out to stream, I watch them. And I've been
haven't
trying
seen
to
it
watch
old yet.
his series. Super creepy.
Oh, on Apple TV.
Yeah, what's it called? The Servant.
Yeah.
The Servant. I like M. Night Shyamalan because I don't know. I'm not, his horror is different than other horror, you know? It's not quite the same. But still, some of his stuff really gets to me. But so I'll occasionally indulge, but it's kind of like you know, chocolate or alcohol or things like that. I don't like to overindulge because it will fuck me up.
And this will be the last one because it kind of collides with the other world that I'm a big part of. Your favorite Salt Lake City comedian?
Ooh, that's hard. And I'm terrible with names. There's this guy I've been following who's local. And I can't remember his name. And he said something about strippers. He said recently something about, you know, going to a strip club is so weird, like you're just going to get a boner with all your friends. Like how strange is that? Like, and I commented on it and I said, ew, you guys are getting hard? That's disgusting. And I was like, I'm going to quit immediately, or just something dumb that people who know me know that like it was just a joke. Like it just was like me being facetious. Is that the right word? Like me just being like acting like a dumbass. And he got it. And then some other guy didn't get it. And he was like commented on it and like acted like I was stupid. And I just liked it because I'm like, you're an idiot, bro. And then someone even felt the need to comment in his and say, bro, she was joking. Like, Like, she was joking. I wish I could remember his name, but he's local. I think he's pretty funny. Dang, I can't. I mean, I've met a lot of them, and I follow a lot of them, but I'm just terrible with the names.
Well, that'll be a cliffhanger for this episode. We'll figure it out and
yeah, we definitely
we'll report. Yeah, cliffhanger to be continued.
Yeah.
Well, we've done it again.
We did it, even though I was feeling all weird.
How does it feel on this side after doing it?
I felt like I could have done better, but I think that's a typical feeling for me.
That's a typical feeling for me too.
Air 5, Zoom 5. Nailed it.
I might. I suck at high fives. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening and watching. We do video now, so you get to see our mugs.
Yeah.
Is that a wig in the background?
It's not a wig. It's my daughter's old huge Barbie doll.
That is huge.
Yeah, she got that when she was little, but it's just hanging around. I think she was cutting its hair recently for fun. I did forget that I wanted to give one shout out.
Oh.
Before we wrap up, that was a fake wrap up. This is the final one. So one of the strippers asked me, because I asked for questions from strippers, and I didn't get a bunch, but I figured I'd just like kind of pick one and do a shout out to that one. And it was, she said, who's one of your favorite strippers? And it's actually a good friend of mine. It's Cadence, Utah. Have you ever seen Cadence dance?
No, I think I do follow her though.
You haven't lived.
Okay.
But yeah, she's Cadence_Utah if you want to follow her, or if you go to trails and you're looking for someone to watch. She is and has always been one of my favorites. She is a fantastic entertainer and definitely one of my favorite strippers. She's a badass bitch. So just wanted to tell her that. Let her know I love her so much. And she's the best. But that's it. That's the real roundup. We're all done now.
All right. Follow us on AskTheStripper and Molly the Stripper, and
thanks
me if
for
you want to.
Thanks. And thanks for the questions.
Yes, great question. Stop asking her out, and
don't do it, bro. Don't do it. I just assume I have a boyfriend. That sounded really bad. Just assume I have a boyfriend. It's just a safe assumption. I'm a regularly monogamous person who is typically dating someone. So just like go ahead and assume it. And assume that if I'm interacting with you and I'm interested, that I'll let you know. You know? Don't ask me out. Don't do it. But I love you.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's a great friend.
Oh, thank you.
Lovable and magic, and
I love you. That's you. I love you too. And thanks for doing this with me. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.